everyone. I'm John Evans. Welcome to another episode of One on One. Martin Jarmond made the UNC Wilmington men's basketball team 25 years ago as a walk-on. He didn't play the most minutes, didn't score the most points. He didn't even start most of the games when he wore a Seahawk uniform. But the coaches saw something in Martin Jarmond. They selected him to be a team captain for both his junior and senior seasons. That meant he was a captain on the team that won the school's first ever CAA men's basketball championship, and then made UNCW's first ever appearance in the NCAA men's basketball tournament. Since graduating from UNCW in 2001, Martin Jarmond has skyrocketed through the world of college athletic administration. Michigan State, Ohio State, Boston College, and now Martin Jarmond is the athletic director at one of the most prestigious universities in the country, UCLA, bringing his elite mindset to that California campus. Martin Jarmond, welcome to the One-on-One with John Evans podcast.
John, thanks for having me. Good to see you, man.
Good to see you as well, and I appreciate you taking the time from what I know is a very busy schedule. I want to talk to your skyrocketing athletic administration career in just a moment, but I want to start with your thoughts about this community that I'm in right now. UNCW, the campus community, this city as a whole. When someone mentions Wilmington and UNCW, what immediately comes to Martin's mind?
It's the foundation. I mean, I love Wilmington. I love UNC Wilmington. I think about the beach. I think about downtown. I think about Market Street. I think about just so many great memories. And coming in on I-40, coming into town. College Road, I think it's College Road. You know, I smile and I think about Trask Coliseum, but it's a great place. It's a great community. The people are phenomenal there. Everyone from my 4 years there was just always nice, always giving, and I just think of a younger community with really good people that care about UNCW, but also care about the city of Wilmington, and just great memories from my time there.
You grew up in Fayetteville, not far from Wilmington. What did a young Martin think he would do for a living? What did a young Martin want to do when he grew up, as it were?
Oh my gosh. I don't know. I think it changed a lot. But, you know, I was always kind of the person that tried to figure it out and just focus on the day-to-day. And as I went along, I always liked, and I learned this at UNCW, but I always liked being on a college campus, and I love the energy and just the vibe. And being at UNCW is probably why I'm in college athletics now, because I love my student athlete experience, but I also love being on a campus to have that energy, that rigor with intelligent people that really have a growth mindset. And that was UNCW for me. And so I think I thought about teaching, maybe being a professor, because I thought my professors, they teach and then they go to, I think it was called the Hawk's Nest, to be playing cards and playing hoops, noon hoops. So I said, you know, professors have the life. That's what I want to be.
You played hoops at Pine Forest High School. You went to UNCW. How does somebody who went as a walk-on end up being the captain of the basketball team 3 years later?
Really good people around me. And I was fortunate that Coach Wainwright, Coach Brownell, Coach Terry, and a great set of teammates, you know, really helped me grow and learn and develop. You know, you don't accomplish anything alone. It's always the team. And, you know, I tried to figure out early on in my career at UNC Wilmington, you know, where I could help, where I could fit in. And I thought that, you know, relating to the guys, understanding the coach's perspective, the amount of work and discipline that was needed to be successful, and where can I help push? And that's what I try to do, is I try to push my teammates every day at practice and try to execute to the best of my ability within my ability with what the coaches wanted to do, and just try to be selfless in my approach. That's really what it came down to. And I was fortunate that the coaches and my teammates felt that I could assume a leadership position, be a captain there for 2 years, and go to the NCAA tournament for the first time in school history. That was my junior year. That was phenomenal. But, we don't go at it alone. Nothing is ever accomplished alone. And so I would tell you, I had great teammates. Those guys, I love them. And I had great coaches. And Coach Wainwright was so instrumental, still to this day, instrumental in my growth during that process and during that time.
I've always felt that Jerry Wainwright is one of the most encouraging, inspiring individuals I've ever had the chance to meet. Not only covering him at UNCW, but getting to know him, listening to him speak to organizations and to groups. I've always felt he was a tremendous inspirational speaker.
Absolutely. I mean, Coach Wainwright is the best. If you ask anyone that's played for him, we could all go back to things that he has said to us that have pushed us, motivated us. He's just that kind of guy that can connect with anybody, whether you're an 18-year-old kid or a 65-year-old supporter or anybody, and that's because of his background. And, he's just great. I mean, he could be a motivational speaker, that, just everything about life. He has a level of authenticity that I don't think a lot of people have, to where he just keeps it real all the time, and he's true to who he is. And that really shows, and his care for people is really, really high up there, because he's just great. He's just great. And he'll get on you too. He'll keep it real and get on you too, but he loves you. He coached hard, but he loved hard too, and he still does. I mean, he affects all of us still to this day.
Yeah, he gives you that look. He kind of tilts the head sideways, looks the eyes this way, doesn't have to say a word.
He'll start kind of mumbling like, come on now, come on,
Yeah, doesn't have to say a word.
No, he doesn't have to say. It's just the look. It's just the look.
Yeah, it is. And I've been on the other side of that look a couple of times as well.
Deb has kind of smoothed him out now. He's a little more smoothed out now.
You captained that 1999-2000 team. Thousands of fans made the trip to Richmond to watch you guys play. Thousands more watched it on TV. But can you take us inside that community that was that basketball team, Martin? And what was it like that night beating Richmond in the CAA championship and securing that first ever championship and trip to the NCAAs?
Well, that team, it started with love. I think we loved each other. I mean, that was a really close-knit team. We all had different backgrounds, and it just kind of chemistry-wise, that team the whole year came together. And I think we were like the 4th seed. It's not like we were in first or second place most of the year. We were good. We weren't great, but we really cared about each other. And I think that tournament in Richmond, it really just came together. And that's when, sometimes in sports, things just click. And I think for that time and that team, and that moment in time, it just clicked. Guys knew their roles, understood their roles. I think we all embraced it at the same time, and we just didn't care. There was no expectation of us going to Richmond. Again, I think our first game might have been a 4 seed and then a 4-5 or something like that. And, we had magic. And we had a couple guys that really embraced their roles and put the ego low, and the effort was high. And we had a freshman hotshot in Brett Blizzard. Blizz was money. He was big time, man, as a freshman, making big time plays. The moment was never too big for him and some of the other ones, Barron and Ray and Vic and Marcus Green. Just guys, Danny Gall, Stu Hare, just guys just stepped up and were really selfless. And it was magical. I just remember that night that we won. It was like the best feeling ever in your life, because you worked so hard. The coaching staff had always said, we want to get to the NCAA tournament. That was one of the goals, and another goal was to advance one round. And to work that hard and to have done it for the first time, knowing it's never been done and you do it, there's no kind of feeling like that, just the belief in each other. And that's what we have. But it started with love. And I would say that team really loved each other.
I think it's something to be said for you in the position that you were. You didn't play the most minutes, you didn't score the most points, but
Right.
somebody saw those qualities in you to be a leader. And I was just wondering if there was any point in time that you said, all right, I'm going to step up and be a leader. So-and-so, you've got to do this for us.
You know, that wasn't my style to step up at a certain time. I try to step up every day. I just remember coming to practice and trying to have a mindset of, you know what, I'm gonna do whatever it takes. You know, that was my deal. And also trying to figure out whether it was guys are having a hard time, guys might be in a slump, guys are struggling, whether it's on the court or off the court, just trying to really get a feel for that, a pulse for that, and try to help the situation. You know, that was really my role. It wasn't like a one-time thing. It was just bringing it every day, you know, and that's kind of, I think consistency is excellence. I think consistency is leadership, what to expect. And everybody, all my teammates and coaches knew what to expect from me every day. And that was really the way that I led. So I didn't have some kind of passionate speech that I can remember. Maybe somebody else can. I'm sure there were some things, but you know, there are always times in a season where it's like, look, we got to get it together. You know, we have moments like that where it's like, this isn't who we are. We got to get to who we are. And we certainly had those, obviously. And, you know, but again, I think when it mattered, guys stepped up, embraced their role, and were selfless. And that's what really helped us.
I've heard you say in other interviews, Martin, that you will never forget the ride back into town after that game.
Yes, that was so we are coming back. I think we came back the next day.
Right.
And we were coming in, and you know, like, you still feel great. You're still on this high. You know, the night before was amazing. But you're kind of coming down now, right? Like we're coming in on a bus, and we weren't expecting anything, you know. And again, we won. We're going to the NCAA tournament first time. We haven't done this before. You don't know what to expect. And we were coming in, and I want to say on 40, like right when you come, is that College Road?
Yeah, that's North College Road.
North
40
College
turns
Road.
into North College and then South College. Yeah.
We were coming in on College Road, and people were lined up the street. And I'm getting goosebumps right now. Like, I can remember it like it was yesterday. And you're looking out the window, and it hits you like, this thing is bigger than just this team. There's a sense of pride. There's a sense of community. And the city's behind us. Like, there's nothing like when a city is behind you. And that bus ride coming in, we saw it. Because it's one thing to say it or people say it, but like when you can visibly see it and feel it and touch it, that makes a world of difference. And people were just lined up, cheering, celebrating, and we could not fathom that people will be waiting for us as we return to campus to support us. And even all the way coming in to pulling into school, it was just lines of people.
Yeah.
And I'll never forget just the feeling of, you know what, we made it. We did something that's bigger than ourselves. And that's what I think in life, you want to be a part of something that's bigger than yourself. You want to contribute to something that's greater than yourself. And that was it. That was huge.
That year going to the NCAAs is well documented, but the following year was your last year. Do you remember the feeling when you walked off the court at Trask Coliseum for the very last time? It was February 21st of 2001. You guys beat VCU, but that was your last home game, senior night. What was it like walking off the court at Trask that last night, Martin?
A range of emotions: bittersweet, sad that it's over, excited, because you know that there's a next step, and I've always felt that I've had a purpose that's greater than what I can see, and so I knew that was a culmination of a journey that night, you know, and to have my parents there, my mom and my dad, it was special. It was really special, but it was bittersweet. I remember you're excited, you're sad, you want to win, and that feeling of you can't believe it's over. You know, it goes so fast. We all say that, but when you're playing, you just, I can actually tell you one of the thoughts I had that senior day was I remember being in the locker room as a freshman, and I lived with Keith Spencer. He was a senior when I was a freshman. And I can remember him and Mark Byington in the locker room of the championship game against Richmond. We lost. And they were so down. They were so sad, obviously. We're in the locker room. And I remember thinking, sitting there as a freshman, like, oh, we'll get to the championship game every year. Like, I'm sad for my guys, but, it just seems so far away. And then just like that, I remember going back to that locker room being like, this is now me. Yeah. And so it's kind of like a full circle moment.
You graduated with a communications degree. Somebody said you wanted to be the next Danny Dahl. I'm not too sure about that at all.
You know who said that? Dahl. Dahl said that.
Then you got your graduate degrees in business and sports administration from Ohio University. What changed your career path, Martin? Was there one single conversation, one single talk with someone, a singular instance that all of a sudden you said, all right, I'm going this way?
I'll give you a story from my grad school, the first year in grad school at Ohio University. So, I'm still trying to figure out what I want to do. I like college. I like athletics, college, but I didn't really know what I wanted to do. And at the end of my first year at Ohio University, I was in a dual degree program, get your MBA, and then also get a master's in sports administration. And Ohio University is the oldest, most established sports administration grad program in the country. So go there, and at the end of the year, we always have this symposium where all the alumni come back. And this was the first time that a lot of us students were going to meet the alumni. And so for me, I was kind of thinking about being an athletic director, but I knew I wanted to be in college athletics at the time. Mm-hmm. So I was really looking forward to this. So we get to that night, it's 300 people, and I look around in the ballroom, and no one looks like me. And I took it hard. I went to the bathroom, got in a stall, locked it, and started crying. And I called my mom, and I called her and I said, Mama, I'm not going to become an athletic director because no one here looks like me. And she proceeded to ask me, are you by yourself? And I'm crying, and yes, Mama, yeah, I'm by myself. And she says, get up, wash your face, and go back out there. And I'm like, what? And she repeats it more sternly, get up, wash your face, and go back out there. And she told me, not only will you become an athletic director, but you're going to come back to this event and you're going to be the person that others that look like you see so they can see it too.
Wow.
And I got goosebumps. And that was probably a turning point for me, because I think it's really important, and professionally, personally, it's hard to be something or do something if you haven't seen it before. It just really is. There's a comfort level, there's a belief of if you see someone that either has the same background, or looks like you, or speaks like you, or whatever it is, there's just a comfort level to that. And when you can't see it, it's much harder to attain. So her kind of setting me straight there, even though I couldn't see it, to have that belief in me and to help me find that belief in myself was game changer for me. And I used that as fuel, and it shifted me from a less selfish perspective, what about me, to I got to do this for others. I got to do this for those coming behind me, to try to impact this space, to make it easier so somebody else doesn't. She helped me shift my mindset a bit.
What a great gift your mother gave you.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. And then, and subsequently, I became the first Black athletic director at Boston College, the first Black athletic director here at UCLA. And, I've been involved in a lot of firsts. And I don't know if I would have handled it as well if I didn't have that support from my dad and my mom. But that moment where she just kind of, I was not expecting that at all, for her to say that. And she didn't see it as an obstacle, whereas I did. And that helped me to how I look at things now.
Wow. And I would assume then that you consider it to be very important to pass it on to the next generation of young athletic administrators, or those who are thinking about it, who are of any race, color, or creed.
Absolutely. I tell my wife this sometimes. When I became an athletic director at Boston College, I envisioned that people young in the business, like when I would write athletic directors or message them and, that kind of thing. And I just assumed that most of the ones that I would get that are in the business that want to become an athletic director would look like me. And I would tell you out of every 10 that might communicate with me, it would probably be 6 are young that look like you, female, like don't even look like me, but they resonated because I was younger and they're younger, right. And they saw a connection that way because I was the youngest AD, I think, in the Power Five. Yeah. And then I had probably more females than males that would reach out. So like that was something that you think one thing, but it's actually something else. And that's just a blessing that to be able to have a career or a journey that helps other people see something that they may want to do someday, and just try to be there for them when I can.
Well, I mean, I didn't have this question down here, but since the conversation has gone this way, I don't think people truly get up in the morning to say, I'm going to be the best first this. I get the sense you just do, and then be the example in how you do what you do, correct?
Absolutely. I run my own race. I'm my biggest critic. I'm my biggest cheerleader too. You have to have a belief. You got to bet on yourself. I believe strongly that, no one's going to do it for you. You've got to do it yourself. And I think if you start thinking about all the other things or what everybody thinks, and that's hard. I mean, trust me, I'm in a very public position where
I can imagine.
There are critics everywhere, and they'll let you know. I mean, I'll post something about my daughter and it'll be, Martin, you need to do this or your dad, and it can get to you. But you've got to have a sense of grit and resiliency. You got to see it through. You got to believe in yourself, and that's got to sustain you. And you've got to have people that care about you around you. But yeah, I've never focused on being the first, because I think I'm going to be the best version of myself. And try to be good enough for me and not worry about all the external things, and it takes care of itself.
When you went to Michigan State to start working your way up the administration ladder, do you remember a first oh wow moment? Let's face it, you went to UNCW mid-major, did grad work at Ohio, and then all of a sudden you step onto a Big Ten college campus. What was that first oh wow moment? I'm no longer in mid-major territory anymore.
Absolutely. It was Notre Dame football game. Notre Dame was coming to East Lansing, and you had some games against some other teams, and you have, I think Spartan Stadium is 75,000, and it was a good amount of people, but that first Notre Dame game, it was a night game. It was sellout, packed house. You could feel the energy in that rivalry, Michigan State, Notre Dame. And they've had great games, the arguably the greatest college game, the 10-10 tie, I think in 1963 or something like that, with Notre Dame and Michigan State. So a lot of history. But that game, I remember being on the sideline and being like, whoa, like I couldn't imagine going to school at a place like this with this environment. And it was awesome. It was electric. And that's something, quite honestly, that made me want to have more interest even in the football and bigger FBS kind of programs, because there's nothing like an atmosphere like that when it's rocking and rolling and it's electric.
You went from there to Ohio State, another huge campus. One of the things I've always wanted to ask athletic directors in your environment now, Martin, is, look, you're the ultimate boss in the athletic department, but there are people who are perceived to be the big boss. The college football coach, the college basketball coach, who are making a lot of money, who are treated as if they are the best in the world. What's it like as an athletic director? Have you seen some of those, or had to have some of those difficult conversations with people who may be community visioned as godlike, for lack of another term?
John, it's funny. We had a coaches event last night, and I got that same question from an aspiring assistant coach. Just said, how do you deal with the relationship dynamics or power, however you want to call it, of a right. Big time head coach and as an AD, and Honestly, I haven't had to have any hard conversations like that because, you have to look at it as a partnership. That's the way I look at it. I look at it with our head coach, our head coaches, whether you're the football coach, the soccer coach, it's a partnership. And my job is to support, so how best do I support the head coach? And then you have to have a level of empathy. You've got to understand, I know how my job feels, but there's a lot of pressure on a football coach or a basketball coach, for example, when there's so much riding on the performance of that program. And so you have to have a level of empathy to understand that. Take a step back and say, hey, this person is under tremendous pressure and scrutiny. And so how can I best support them? Because they're in a very challenging environment, just the way that college sports is right now.
Yeah.
So I don't look at it as something like, who's in charge. You can't have an ego when it comes to these jobs. You got to have low to no ego, and that's just the deal. That's part of it. So I try to look at it as a partnership. And when you look at it as a partnership, just like you think about anything, whether it's a relationship you have, friendship, whatever, it's you both give and you both take, and you try to find that balance of how best to support the other person so they can be their best. And as an athletic director, that's what I try to do. I try to create an environment to where your strengths are accentuated and your weaknesses are minimized, because we're all at our best when we can emphasize and focus on our strengths. So how do we create that environment for that coach that really shines, and it depends on each coach.
What is Martin Jarmond's definition of athletic director? Facilitator, administrator, cheerleader, fundraiser, supporter, or is that like a piece of pizza dough all wrapped into one? You put it in the oven and bake it and somebody flourishes.
You missed one. F, all of the above. That's what it is. You're all of those. I mean, you're a communicator. There's a vision that the athletic director has to set for where we're going. We're looking at a process now. You got to ask yourself 3 questions. Who are we? Where are we going? And how do we get there? That's what an athletic director does. And you have so many constituents that you serve. You've got students, you got student athletes, you've got alumni, you've got staff, faculty, you've got donors, you've got season ticket holders, you've got sponsors. I mean, I just named 9 right there that you have to work with or answer to or serve in some kind of capacity. So an athletic director really has to be able to be nimble, be flexible, have a growth mindset. You can't be set in a certain way. And you've got to be a constant learner, in my opinion. I'm always trying to be curious. Just assume that I don't know much because I want to learn and absorb as much as I can. But an athletic director does all that. You've got to make tough decisions. You got to make tough calls. You got to do unpopular things. That's just the nature of the position. But I love it. I enjoy it. And you got to have an energy to it. You got to have an elite mindset. That's what we kind of talk about, being elite.
If somebody would have walked into the UNCW locker room, walked over and tapped the guy wearing number 2 on the shoulder and said, in 21 years, you're going to be the athletic director at the University of California at Los Angeles. What would that young man have said back?
That young man would say, stop smoking whatever you're smoking, man. I'm just a kid from Fayetteville, North Carolina. I never saw, living as far west as Los Angeles. I mean, I never would have envisioned that in my wildest dreams. But I've been blessed and fortunate to have a lot of really good people along my journey and really poured into me. That's where we're always a product of our experiences and relationships. And I'm just lucky and fortunate that I've had so many great people that have cared about me, that have helped me grow and develop, learn. And I pinch myself because I'm very fortunate, very grateful for where I am and what I want to continue to do.
Does your wife and daughters, do they like Los Angeles?
Yes. They like it a lot more than when we first moved. We moved in the summer of 2020, right in the heart of the pandemic without vaccines and all that. So moving to a place like LA, it was really hard because you don't form relationships with your neighbors, with people at school or whatever. But now they like it more. I've got 3 beautiful girls and they're thriving, they're thriving right now. So And Jessica, my wife, she's great. She's from Michigan, and she's enjoying the weather. You know, we love the weather out here. It's always sunny and nice. And at UCLA, it's just really good people. I love the people that I work with, and you know, it's nice to be in something that can be challenging at times with people that really care and have your back and that you trust. And we got really good people, talented people here at UCLA.
Well, Martin, it was a blast to watch you play in that number 2 jersey and to watch the achievements of that basketball team that you captained to the first CAA championship and the NCAA tournament. You've had a tremendous career already as an athletic administrator. I appreciate you taking the time out of your busy schedule and reminiscing a little bit, pulling the curtain back a little bit, and letting us revisit once again with one of UNCW's all-time favorites. Martin Jarmond, thanks for your time and thanks for joining us on the One-on-One podcast.
John, thanks for having me. I really appreciate it. Just seeing on the Zoom WECT, it brings back so many fond memories of Wilmington, and it always have a special place in my heart. So thank you so much, and I appreciate your support. And go Seahawks.
A big thank you to UCLA Athletic Director and UNCW alum Martin Jarmond for joining us in this week's podcast. You can learn more about him and the university at uclabruins.com. You can also follow Martin on social media. He's active on Twitter and on Instagram too. Now, before we go, I'd like to ask you a favor. Please download and subscribe to the One-on-One with John Evans podcast on whatever app you use to listen to your favorite shows. And if you would be so kind, please leave us a rating or a review. We do want to hear what you think about our interviews, and the more feedback we get from our listeners, the higher we'll be listed on the podcast apps, and the better chance we'll have of bringing in even more new subscribers. I'm John Evans. Thanks so much for joining us for this episode of One-on-One.